The BBC have said they're going to axe more than 100 members of staff, and it seems in a bid to make themselves even less popular with the British public than they are already, they are going to lay off a whole load of staff, mainly production and editorial staff, you know, the ones responsible for putting out content and putting out programming that is actually worth watching, and instead they're going to be spending £80 million annually on what they call diversity projects. The Daily Mail says that the BBC has announced to cut more than 100 jobs despite recently pledging to spend tens of millions on a diversity drive. Now, it's worth noting at this point, when we talk about diversity, that the BBC already employs a larger number of black, Asian and ethnic minority staff than is representative of the breakdown of population here in the UK as a whole. The losses equate to 3% of its workforce and will target its editorial and production departments. Like I say, the very departments actually make the stuff watchable, reportedly in a bid to save money over the uncertainty of future funding. Now, the uncertainty of future funding comes because, if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, the BBC is funded by a licence fee. If you have a TV in your home, you are expected to pay the licence fee which goes towards the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is designed in effect as a public service. This enables the BBC to remain commercial free. Sorry to interrupt the video, just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who supports the channel. If you haven't done so already, then I do ask that you kindly click the subscribe button down below. 97% of people who watch these videos aren't currently subscribed, which is crazy, right? It's totally free. You can change your mind and there won't be any hard feelings if you choose to unsubscribe at a later date. If you do find these videos useful and you want to help me out, you can buy me a beer by clicking the link in the description below, and that also would be very much appreciated, particularly in this hot weather. Anyway, back to the video. However, more and more people are starting to refuse to pay the licence fee, not having a TV, instead using digital streaming platforms or indeed just getting their content from places like YouTube. Because of this, the BBC have become increasingly unpopular, increasingly clamped down on people who don't pay the licence fee, sending out enforcement officers to people's homes to effectively bully them into paying for a product or a service that they very well may not use. There's very few things I can imagine that I watch on the BBC. I do believe I watch Match of the Day sometimes, but again, if it wasn't for the licence fee, I could get that somewhere else. The Daily Mail says, however, this comes alongside another announcement from the broadcaster to invest £80 million annually, and like I say, that's not a one-off, that is every single year, in creative diversity projects, and raise representation targets in production teams from 20% to 25%. So basically, they want to, in an attempt to more accurately represent the country that the British Broadcasting Corporation is there to serve, they actually want to skew the number of people from certain ethnic groups over and above the actual proportion of the British population that these groups truly represent. The BBC's Director General, basically the head of the BBC, Tim Davie, said in July that the national broadcaster is still looking to save another £200 million. Now, I'm fairly sure there are ways and means of saving money at the BBC. It feels like a very inflated corporation with some very, very highly paid talent, which may be better suited to a commercial environment where people can choose whether or not they wish to pay for said talent. A total of 500 cuts will be achieved by the end of March 2026. As bosses said, the BBC faces a tough financial climate. A recent review by Sir Lenny Centre of Media Diversity. Now, if you want to save some money, BBC, then maybe I suggest selling off the Sir Lenny Centre for Media Diversity. That will get a few million quid in your back pocket already, and it actually pains me to read the very name of that organisation, not because I have an issue with diversity in the media, because I have an issue with the hypocrite Sir Lenny Henry, who came to fame using racial stereotypes to build sketch comedy, and has since gone on a tirade about racism at the BBC. Now, that's not to say you can't change your opinions. Of course you can change your opinions. However, it's fairly hypocritical of someone like Lenny Henry, who started his career and built it on playing a stereotype, to now want to talk about racial inclusion and diversity. A recent review by the Centre for Media Diversity into the company made a number of recommendations to the corporation over its diversity offerings. But this is the problem, isn't it? There is great white talent, there is great black talent, there is great Asian talent, there is great male talent, there is great female talent, there is great straight talent, there is great gay talent. There is great talent in all characteristics, all groups, all communities, all ethnicities, all sexualities, all backgrounds, all ages, all colours, all castes, all creeds, all religions, right? There is great talent out there. We just need to employ the best people for the job, and that's whether they're in front of the camera or behind the camera. Unfortunately, what the BBC seem to think of as diversity is ensuring that every group of people, every colour, every race, every religion, etc., is represented in everything they do. Every programme has to have a representative of every community. And in reality, that's not how it works. If you're going to be making dramas, if you're going to be making programmes that are specific to certain groups, or set in certain places or certain areas or at a certain time, then there is going to be a slant towards certain groups of people. For example, if you are making a drama that is supposed to be set in the 14th century in the UK, then there were very, very, very few black people in the country at the time. However, you will find that black people are overrepresented in these dramas in a bid to be inclusive. Now, if you want to then go and make a drama in an area that is predominantly black, I don't expect you to hire a whole load of white actors to go in there just to balance things out a bit. Hire the best people for the jobs. Hire the most suitable people for the jobs. If you're trying to represent a certain community, employ people from that community. If you want to represent other people, you should be free to do so without people like Sir Lenny turning up and telling you that it's racist. It just feels like the BBC are desperately trying to make themselves unpopular with the very people who fund it. Nobody has a problem with diversity. People have a problem with diversity being rammed down our throats and shoehorned in where it doesn't belong. This may be an unpopular opinion with some, but I don't have a problem having female pundits on Match of the Day or female commentators for men's football. However, they need to be good. They need to be good, and they need to be there, and they need to have got the job because they're good at punditry or they're good at commentary and they know their football. Simply shoehorning them in to tick a diversity quota box is not doing them a favour. It's not doing the licence fee payer a favour, and it's not doing true diversity and true inclusion and true opportunity across the board. It's not doing anyone a favour. All it's doing is lowering the quality of the content to tick boxes. Anyway, back to the story. The Centre's recommendations included publishing annual intersectional analysis, urgent large-scale intervention to create transformative inclusion in the industry for people with disability, and the abolition of catch-all terms and vocabulary for ethnicity. Now, if there is a more woke paragraph, I don't think I have ever read it. I am all for inclusivity. And there, again, is incredible talent amongst people with disabilities. Those people should be employed and put in positions where their talents are best suited. They shouldn't be shoehorned in at every eventuality simply to tick the disability diversity quota box. All right, that is demeaning. I think that's patronising to people who have genuine talent but also have a disability, to literally put them in somewhere where maybe they're not best suited just because they are then in front of the camera and they're being used as a prop to support this diversity agenda. In the same way as I just mentioned, I don't think putting a female pundit on a panel for men's football simply to tick a box is in their best interest. I think that it's, again, patronising, it's demeaning, because when people then come forth and criticise them for maybe not being the best person for the job, they have been put in the firing line by the corporation who have employed them despite them not being the best person for the job. I believe that in the vast majority of cases, and I'm sure there are some exceptions if I sat here and thought about it hard enough, employment should be a meritocracy. If you're good at the job, if you're the best fit for the job, then you should be employed irregardless of your characteristics, irregardless of your race, your sex, your age, your gender, your sexuality, whether or not you have any disabilities, etc., etc. If you are the best person for the job, then you should get the job. It's as simple as that. The BBC said its investment will aim to ensure that stories are told on air are authentically reflective of audiences across the UK. So this means that their period dramas will now be ethnically accurate. Is that correct? Or am I to believe that that won't be the case? Its £80 million investment will be spent on TV and radio projects and will focus on aligning diverse on-air storytelling with stronger off-air representation in senior production roles and leadership within production companies. So they're saying basically they're going to increase diversity in production and leadership, the very areas they are saying they are now going to be laying people off from. Now, I don't think you have to read too far between the lines to say that they are trying to basically get rid of people from certain groups and replace them over time with people from other groups that may better meet their agenda. The BBC has also published new inclusive production principles to foster an inclusive culture on each... You know what? I don't think I can be bothered to read this story anymore. This is so much woke bump nonsense. Just focus on taking the licence fee payers' money, if you insist on keep doing that, despite the backlash you're consistently receiving, taking that money, putting it in a pot and making the best possible content, the best possible programming you can for the people who pay for it. All right. Now, that doesn't matter whether that's dramas, doesn't matter whether it's news programs, doesn't matter whether it's sport, doesn't matter whether it's comedy, doesn't matter. And also, it doesn't matter whether the people in those programs are black, white, Asian, straight, gay, male, female, able-bodied, disabled. No one cares. All right, take the money, make some good programs, and if you do that, and if you consistently deliver quality content worthy of the name British Broadcasting Corporation, then maybe you may gain a few popularity points with the people who are paying your wages. But until then, scrap the Lenny Henry Centre for Diversity in Media, or whatever it was called, right? Scrap £80 million on these diverse projects and just make good programs with the best people for the job. How about that? Stay safe and stay sane, everyone. I'm going for a lie down.